Okay, so here's a look at the schedule for this week. It has on my duty times, has the coding club on Monday, and it also has mention of the fact that I am out in the morning for an in-service on Tuesday, so there will be a supply teacher. I'll make sure that the students know tomorrow as well. Sorry, I shouldn't say tomorrow, on Monday as well. And other than that, the week is fairly normal. Okay, so for language this week, we are going to be working with the Hamilton Spectator and looking at their exploration of dinosaurs. It's a little project. I'll probably extend past this week, although the newspapers are just for the 1 week. And these ideas will be kind of grouped into mini lessons. The first one is going to start us on Monday, but the orders of the other ones may change slightly depending on where the students are at. And some of their interests and stuff with where they go on Monday. So we're going to be looking a bit at nonfiction texts and how to document their learning. This will get us into like pictures and words and labels. I'd like to go a bit into dinosaur personalities as well. So looking at kind of the roles, I guess, that they played. And that could even link with the idea of roles in the community. So if they were around today, what roles might they play and who kind of took over for those different roles? So kind of get them to think a little bit critically with regards to it. I'd love to group in with speech bubbles and point of view as well. Kids are really starting to get into that too in their writing, so be a great way to kind of extend some of that and get them to write in a different way. Also poetry, drama, dance, really kind of linking the arts in both their word choices that they make, describing some of the actions of dinosaurs, creating their own dinosaur plays and stuff, which can also link with what we're currently doing, and maybe kind of link what's already in there to possibly a little dinosaur museum, depending on where they go with it. And the idea of expanding on ideas. So a lot of the students are still just writing a minimal amount and kind of getting them to go a little bit deeper. So I think the use of questions will help. We will use the cue chart to kind of assist with this and then expanding on some of the ideas that are generated from there. Okay, so in math this week, we're also going to link it with some of the dinosaur learning. So on Monday, I'd like to kind of look at the length of the dinosaur tails. I noticed this when I went to visit another classroom before, that the students had linked it, and what a great way to kind of link standard and non-standard measurement, and how we can kind of make sense of a real length using some non-standard tools. Get us a little more into the counting number recognition piece, which I think some of the students still need the review with as well, so that'll be good. Tuesday we have a jump rope for heart assembly during this time, so that will mix things up a little bit. So we won't have a full math block on Tuesday. Now Wednesday is our Wiggly Wednesday. So it is when we collect the food to feed the worms. But I'd like to kind of work together, now that the students have kind of experimented with a vermicomposter, to kind of create a collaborative one that could stay out and could be something that we could kind of document changes week by week. So look at, what stays the same, what changes, how can we change it to represent it, what do we notice in terms of the number of worms, getting them to look a little bit more closely at it, and then again looking at shapes and figures and how we can represent the amounts, and even just the fact, like the capacity and the amount of the bin that's being used. So it's not being used to its maximum, so how do we show that? And does the amount change as the worms are getting more food each week as well, right? So we can kind of even talk a little bit about the weight, and as the students move the bin to the floor each week, what do they notice in terms of that weight? And then on Thursday and Friday, I want them to start planning. Part of the spectator thing is for them to create their own dinosaurs, and it's supposed to use the newspapers. So they can only really use tape with the newspapers as well. So trying to look at how they could form the newspapers into different shapes, the different body components, what might it look like, how can they align some of what they've learned about the dinosaurs and what they look like and why they have the characteristics that they do. So how did they use their teeth and their tails or their wings, and in the dinosaur that they create, what might they use and how might they name it, and how does that name reflect that dinosaur? And it's kind of like a combination of language and math as well together. And also when creating the figures, looking at more or less paper and how does that impact on the structure. And then we can also tie into the art and the elements of design. So this week especially, I think there'll be a lot of overlap with the language and math blocks and just the larger blocks of time together. And And for shared reading this week, we're also going to focus on kind of a musical poem and play that connects to dinosaurs. I'd like to incorporate some dance with it as well as music and drama, so kind of make it all together. And then also incorporate some of the reading part, especially with regards to phonemic awareness. So reading of the nonsense words, the rhyming words, using the initial letter sounds. And with that, I kind of thought that for one of my groups for guided reading, I'd also like to work on maybe having them make some kind of dinosaur alphabet book, so that those that are still exploring the letters and sounds can kind of do so within the context of some of the learning that we're doing. When I showed them about the Hamilton Spectator project, they were really, really excited. All the students were really into dinosaurs. A lot of them had their own. They had things that they were talking about. They talked about how they could connect it to some of what they're already doing. So I would really like to kind of extend that learning for the students as well.